So this may be a little bit confusing, but Lance and I run Nectify together, which is behind Lance over there. Lance is the founder, and I'm the head of operations, I suppose. And I'm the founder of Build Remote, where I think mostly what I do is talk about things we've done at Nectify. So today I'm going to interview Lance. I'm going to be from Build Remote, and Lance is going to be from Nectify today. And I want to ask Lance a lot about his thought process behind implementing a 4-day work week. So Nectify's been doing a 4-day work week for almost 2 years now. It was January 2020 that we launched the 4-day work week. Prior to that, from the founding of the company, which was about 10 years ago, Lance put in place a 36-hour work week, which was just removing afternoons on Friday. So everyone was done working at about noon on Friday, and that's how you get to the 36 hours. So I guess, why don't we start there, Lance? How did you come up with that idea? What was your idea behind that? How'd you get to that first step all those years ago?
So it's a good question. So the quick answer is I don't remember what caused me to say, hey, what if we just did half days on Friday? Other than I really love the weekend. And so it was kind of like, well, if I love the weekend, maybe other people do. And what if we didn't do the full day on Friday? Because there was a couple of things I noticed, which is for me, Friday was always like get up and you kind of work and you're excited about starting the weekend. And you would like quickly finish up whatever you needed to finish up so you could like be done. And so that was pretty cool because you get up on Friday and it felt like, yeah, I'm working, but I'm about to be off and get to have my weekend. But then you and I started talking probably 3 years ago. That Friday morning, it seems like we're not actually getting a lot done that couldn't be done sooner. Maybe you put off something and you're like, we'll just wait till Friday morning and I'll take care of that. But we wrestled with the idea of what if we just didn't have that? Could we still potentially get as much done just in 32 hours rather than 36? Yep. Which we should clarify as well. For our 4-day work week, we're not doing 4 10-hour days. We're doing 4 approximately 8-hour days, which gets into a whole other discussion about how we actually measure time worked and all of that. But that's sort of how we got there to this experiment of, do we really need to work on Friday when all we're doing on Friday at this point is just wrapping up a few things?
So then you had mentioned that when we went from 36 hours and we started talking about it in 2019, going into 2020, I think, about getting rid of those 4 hours on a Friday and doing 4 8-hour days, essentially, or really whatever you need to get done, but make sure you're not working on a Friday. How did that thought come about, and how were you feeling about if we were to implement it? Do you remember some of your thoughts around going into that decision?
I think the biggest concern in my mind, honestly, was in how some of our team would respond thinking, well, I already feel really busy. What happens if I don't have 4 more hours to get stuff done? Sort of that mentality of like, that was a really key component of the week of like wrapping things up. And so I know you and I had some discussions about that, and we talked with the team about, let's just think about this differently. Instead of thinking on a Thursday, I'll just take care of that in the morning and wrap that up. It's about just thinking differently about your timeline for the week. And I think there was some pushback on that initially, just a little bit, but then probably within just a handful of weeks, we all sort of said, oh yeah, this is the new norm, like how we think about our week. So there was that aspect. There was the question in our mind of, can we actually be productive enough to make Nectify financially successful and working fewer hours? You especially brought that up to me because you're in the, knee deep in the spreadsheets. about our numbers and all of that. It was kind of like we do a lot of things at Nectify. We said, well, why don't we just try it?
I was thinking we can't try this out because if once we do it, we have to just do it.
Oh,
Because once you jump into a 4-day work week, and this is sort of a thought I've come to maybe over the years, is like, what if you go back to the people and say, hey guys, it didn't work out. We're going to now come back in on Fridays. You're essentially telling them they're not productive enough or whatever the negative, like, sort of culture shock is of saying that.
yeah.
And so it's almost not doable. Like once you do it, you got to go for it and you got to figure it out. That's sort of how I feel about it.
I guess I think that's probably right. And I have a pretty bad memory about stuff like this. I think the concern was that there would be if there was pushback from our team, though, rolling it back would be a little less difficult because essentially that's what they would be asking for. Is in fact,
Oh,
I
right.
actually remember the first few weeks. I remember seeing on Slack that a few people were still working on Fridays. Like I would see some
Yeah.
comments in there, or I'd get notifications in documents. So
Yep.
it took a little while for everybody to really buy into you can't actually get it done.
Yep.
I think again,
No,
my
yeah. I
memory is
think
pretty bad. I'm a
you're
48-year-old dude. I can't remember anything.
right. No, I think you're right. And if the team were to say this isn't working, yeah, absolutely. That would be coming at it from a different perspective. But by the way, we're like a 7-person company or something. And so it would be a small group and we all figure it out together. My guess is if you have a 100, 200-person company and
Yep.
you're thinking of doing this, they will not push back like we want to come back in on Fridays. It just won't happen. And you got to sort of operate from that assumption. And it didn't happen with us either, you know? How did we implement it? Like, what steps did we need to take internally um, to do it?
I think some of it was in how we communicated to everybody. Again, we're a small team, but just how we communicated as a team of how we're going to do this in the sense of like you can't you can't have one or two people decide they're going to go ahead and work or communicate with clients on a Friday or have some message. I
Yeah.
mean, yes, occasionally something random happens, and I get all that, but I just mean I remember I had to like say to a couple of people who were on Slack on a Friday,
Yeah.
like, you need to be off of here. This is not a work day.
Yep.
Um,
It's true.
and so there's almost like this. You kind of have to be the police for a little while, almost like encouraging your people. Don't let this become just this blurry day of work. Like that's the opposite of what we wanted to have happen, right? Almost like a shadow
Yeah.
work day where, yes, we only work 4 days a week, but we kind of work on Friday and we kind of in and out. Like that's not what I want. And that's the kind of the foundation of, we talk about work-life alignment at Nectify. That does not mean that your work blends into all of your life and you're just constantly working. It means that you work hard and
Yep.
you do it in such a way that aligns with what you value in your life, and then you get on with your life. Like work is not life.
Yep.
It's great that we get to do it, and it's great that we can make some money doing this, and it's great that we have some relationships that we've built and we get to doing something meaningful. But it's not even the lion's share of our life, honestly, in terms of meaningfulness. And I
Yeah.
think at its core is part of what allowed us to say, all right, let's give you back a little more of your life and a little less work. And let's implement that. So it was saying, this is what we're going to do. And then nobody got in trouble. Like, we don't scold anybody here, but it was just like, hey, remember, we're not working on Fridays. We can't we can't send an email on Friday to a customer if we expect to ever have a Friday where we're not having to reply to an email from a customer. Look, we don't work until it's time to work. I've even talked to one of our team members about they spend some time on Sunday thinking about the work week. And my thought is, if you want to think about your work week, set that up so that at 9 a.m. on Monday morning, you start thinking.
Yep.
Think about your work week.
Yep. Yep.
What? But we're not paying people to do this on a Sunday.
Yep. To actually then implement it, because you're trying to turn this culture, I think you have to encourage people to not be online when you say this isn't a work day.
Yep.
You have to sort of, through the culture, turn Friday into a Saturday, which actually does take time. And I forgot that. I'm glad you mentioned that. And the second thing you can do, I think, time will expand or contract, whatever that saying is, to fit the allotted amount. And so I think you go from 40 to 36 to 32. It will be fine. People will find a way to get the same amount done. But you're actually just trying to structure and show how that can be. So another thing you can do that we did is we cut all of our meetings in half in some way, I remember. So hour-long meetings, we switched on the calendar to 30 minutes. Weekly meetings became bi-weekly meetings. Client meetings we had weekly, and then we went to bi-weekly, and I think we're more on monthly with some of them. So we visibly showed on the calendar where more hours were showing up.
So you were really, really, I think, very practical in looking at how can we reduce the length of meetings, reduce the frequency of meetings, reduce even the amount of back and forth communication for things, which goes to our use of Slack as well, versus emailing. So when you get it, people waste a lot of time in email. So we've kind of gone to this method of communication, which is, if you're going to say something to somebody, just because you say something, that other person is not obligated to hear it right that minute. It's about taking ownership of how you receive communication and when you reply. And so I think that allows each of us as a team to figure out, am I working right now? Am I in the zone? If so, I need to be off of Slack. I need to close email and just do the thing I need to do. When that's accomplished, I go back and answer questions or interact with whoever needs to be interacted with. So in other words, the whole framework is not everybody's accessible all the time, which is, again, a huge time waster. To get your most important things done, step in, communicate, get back to the next session of getting things done. And then if we're done with work, be done with work. I mean, we don't even really enforce anything around did you really work 32 hours this week? I don't care. If the work's getting done, great. And that, by the way, that is another cultural thing, though, is managing and expecting results from your team, not time, because that's where it gets really important to have job description or who is responsible for what,
right?
And not just, hey, you're a part of the team. As long as you're here working hard, then we're winning.
You no longer need to use vacation days on Fridays.
Right.
Right. So request it off on a Thursday, and there's a 4-day weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
With one day off toward your policy. If you have part-time employees, again, this is a lot of thought and work to get back to. Nothing really changes. But I think with part-time employees, it's just encouraging them. We no longer consider Friday a work day, or whatever the case may be, the policy you're going toward. We encourage you not to work on those days. And everything else, again, is the same for them, because they're just sort of billing their hours to you, right?
Yep.
So is there anything else HR-wise you can think of that we went through?
I hadn't thought about what you just said about part-time. So there is a potential implication there, right? That somebody who's working hourly versus a salary, when you reduce your hours in the work week, you are effectively reducing their pay.
As compared to the full-time workers.
Correct. Right? As compared to salary.
Yes, yeah.
So we had that situation at Nectify, but we already knew that the people involved weren't maxing out their time anyway. So it wasn't like we're now punishing
Yeah.
someone for not being able to work 40 hours a week.
Yep. Yeah, so I guess you could consider redoing the pay of your part-time employees, or you could just say this is a benefit for full-time employees, much like you have other benefits that are for full-time versus part-time people. And if you want more full-time employees, that's more of an incentive in that direction. So I mean, it would probably be a personal preference for how to handle that.
Yeah.
We're almost at 2 years on this, on a 4-day work week. How do you think it's gone? How have things changed? What do you feel like? Has it been a success?
I think it's gone great. I think it's some of our favorite conversations to me is when there's like a holiday that falls on Monday, because then it's hysterical because we're off Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You get Monday off, you come back Tuesday, and all you're doing is working Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you're back off. And it's just funny because like you already know you're getting a lot of time off by not working Fridays, but it becomes really apparent when you get those occasional Monday holidays. I think it's, from what I can tell, talking with you, talking with the rest of the team, in our one-on-ones and all of that, it's kind of become a part of just how we all do life, which I think to me, that's what makes it a success, is we just think that way now.
I don't think either way there was like a negative or positive impact to our productivity. I think it just sort of all looks the same, which is amazing because we cut out an additional 10% of work time with no productivity loss.
And I told you my crazy idea for the future, which we won't implement anytime soon, but it hit me that if you have a 4-day work week and a 3-day weekend, you're really only a half day away from having half of your week be work and half of your week be not work, which means you no longer have a weekend.
Yep.
You just have work and life.